deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Oh, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
Fired up as usual. Coronavirus can't stop us.
I'm doing good, as good as you can in these circumstances, but I'm ready to talk some football. There's still sports to go.
It's going okay. First time I'm hitting the field remotely, so I guess that's pretty cool. Excited to just get my mind off of this coronavirus and talk a little bit of NFL free agency.
Let's see.
It says it's live. Yeah, we're live.
Yep, we are live.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been weird. You got the coronavirus, plus, like, as a Patriots fan, your quarterback for the last 20 years, the greatest of all time, goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It kind of doesn't feel real. It still really hasn't sunk in. I think when I see him in a real jersey, like him posting a lot, it'll really sink in. But I wanted Tom for more sentimental value. And I think a bunch of Patriots fans are feeling the same. Listen, Tom didn't look the same last year. He took a bit of a dip. Now, granted, the weapons were not what they were in previous years, but let's not get it twisted. Tom was not the same. I would have paid him the money for sentimental value and just because of his mind, his work ethic, stuff like that. But as I've really thought about it, I'm okay with letting him go. If he wants to go try something else and, play with a different team, there's more power to him. I support him. I hope he doesn't win a Super Bowl. But the Pats didn't have the money to sign him. The Pats are looking to move in a different direction, go towards the future. And if that means taking, a 12-4 team to a 10-6 or, an 11-5, I'm more than okay with that. So it's definitely somber, but, it was going to happen eventually.
Yeah, first off, I was shocked just like everybody else. Just the thought of Tom Brady in a Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform just doesn't quite seem real. But I'm excited to see it, especially because I think this is the best weapons he's had around him in years. I mean, I go back to the 2007 season when they went 16-0, that he had this kind of weapons around. I'm talking about an elite top 5 type talent in Mike Evans. Okay, then we're talking Chris Godwin. We're talking O.J. Howard, who hasn't had the production, but I think from a talent standpoint, he's up there in the top tier tight ends. So I'm really excited what we're gonna see. Plus, we've got him working with Bruce Arians, who's been known to work with old quarterbacks and has had success working with Carson Palmer at the back end of his career. So I can't even wait to see what he's going to do with Tom Brady.
Yeah, I can't help but echo that. I mean, it's pretty shocking that we're going to see him in a different jersey next year. I think that's what is going to be so weird, is just to see him not in a Patriots uniform. Um, it's because I can, a legend like that in person. Tampa's within an hour drive from here, so that's awesome that he's going to be so close to home. But yeah, I'm just kind of shocked that he even left. I really thought with all the troll jobs he was pulling, I really thought he was just going to say, I'm coming back to New England. But, it's a new era for New England. It'll be interesting to see how they move on, if they're really going to roll with Stidham and Hoyer, or, if they do something at the draft. And also, Tampa, like John said, you're giving them legit top wide receiver threats and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So it's probably Brady's best receiver since Randy Moss with Mike Evans, but there's a lot of talent on that offensive talent on that Bucks team. So I'm really excited to see what Tom can do with them.
Test.
I do want to throw in one thing. So you kind of knew a couple days before free agency. It was the legal tampering. You kind of knew he was gone just with the way that the Pats were spending money. Paying Devin McCourty $11.5 million over in 2 years each year. That kind of was a telltale sign. And then franchising Joe Thuney, which made no sense to me. I love Joe Thuney, but it was more of like, oh, how are we going to get Brady? So when you franchise Joe Thuney for $14.5 million, it was almost like it was meant to happen. He wasn't coming back. But one thing I read Mike Reese's article on ESPN that I thought was very interesting was next year the Patriots are supposed to have $100 million in cap space. Bill Belichick with $100 million in cap has not happened in 20 years. So I don't know. We might be rolling with Jarrett Stidham this year, but let's tank for Trevor and then spend some money. That's my philosophy.
Yeah, could they maybe have like a Warriors type one rebuild, get the top pick in the draft, get cap space, get your guys coming back?
Well, because it's not going to be a reboot. I just don't see a reboot happening. The defense is too good, and we have a bunch of defensive leaders. It's more of going to be like an offensive rebuild. That's how I see it.
Yeah, it's like a quick reset button.
Absolutely.
Similar to what the Warriors are doing.
I'm curious to see where the Patriots end up finishing next season with, the Bills getting better and stuff like that. I'm curious to see how well the Patriots do in that division without Brady.
Well, my take on that is they're the Patriots. So they're gonna compete. We've seen them stay competitive with Matt Castle at the helm. We've seen them competitive with Garoppolo and Brissett at the helm. So, I think the defense is so good. I don't know if they have their quarterback on their roster right now, but I think they're the Patriots. They're gonna be competitive as long as Bill Belichick's on that sideline.
And here's the thing: if the coaching staff didn't believe in Jarrett Stidham, they could have easily enough to basically say, yep, we'll just sign Brian Hoyer to a 1 year, $1 million deal to pretty much just coach him. So Jarrett Stidham's the guy, I guess, this year.
Oh, absolutely. Over Winston. Because Winston threw Tom Brady's not going to throw 30 interceptions. That's all Winston had to do was just limit the interceptions. They were in every game,
Listen,
They're right in the division.
Whenever you can get Tom Brady, obviously you take you roll with the punches. Like, there's no question about it. But I do agree with what people are saying in the sense that, listen, the two receivers that they do have are long, deep threats. And Brady is more a dump and dine kind of guy. Like, he's a short pass, then the receivers make some moves. I don't know with Bruce Arians' style if Brady's going to be as effective as he was in New England. He's going to be good. There's no question about it. He's the greatest of all time. He's going to be good with those receivers. But I don't know how effective he will be in that offense. Whereas Jameis go with the interceptions. Trust me, I'm not a Jameis fan. But for that offense, without the interceptions, he was the player for the Bucs.
All right. Still, having microphone issues, but we'll fix those. Robert, anything you wanted to add before we move on here?
No, yeah, I agree. It's gonna, I think it was time for the Bucks to move on from Jameis. I mean, clearly between him and Bruce Arians just doesn't have the faith in Jameis Winston anymore. So, and it shows. I mean, Jameis Winston still hasn't signed with a team after, like almost a week and a half now. So it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. But, he's got a lot to prove still, 30 touchdowns, but also 30 interceptions. That's, a really just mediocre middle of the road stat. So it's just he's got to prove himself again, and he certainly has confidence in himself. So wherever he ends up, he's going to be trying to gun for a starter role again.
All right, so we'll get into Winston a bit later in the show, but the next signing that I really want to jump into is Phillip Rivers to the Colts. He, earlier in the offseason, sold his house in California, moved his family down to Florida, and now he's going to end up in Indianapolis. John, was Phillip Rivers the right fit for the Colts, or do you think the Colts just wanted to move on from Brissett?
I gotta be honest, I don't think this was the right fit for the Colts. I think you should have stuck with Brissett a little longer. I think Brissett lit it up at the beginning of last season. He got injured, didn't come back from the injury so well. Also didn't have T.Y. Hilton, and that's a different offense when T.Y. Hilton's in there. I think you overpaid for Rivers, who really looked like he was done last year. He still had his brain, but he did not have the arm that he once had. It was very clear. I think you overspent for him, and you had a guy who could get it done just as well in Jacoby Brissett. So I think you should have stuck with him a little longer.
Okay, so you're saying the Colts should have stuck with Brissett. Rob, what do you think the Colts should have done? Was it right to go sign Rivers?
I mean, their back's kind of against the wall. I mean, with the whole Andrew Luck situation, really not his fault. I mean, when you're done, you're done. But, they really haven't had stability at quarterback. And, Brissett's young, I think. But it's just kind of a question of what's his peak. Has he hit that peak? Is he what he is with Brissett? So, I mean, with Phillip Rivers, I think they're just signing a guy, name value. It's paying a lot of money for just a couple years with an old quarterback, seeing what he can bring to that offense and see if he still got it. I mean, he didn't have it last year. I'm concerned. I think they paid him way too much, but they're taking a big gamble, and they kind of have no choice. I mean, they got to do something at quarterback, and this is, I guess, their idea of a quick fix for the next couple seasons while maybe they try to draft, someone like Jordan Love or Justin Herbert.
Wasn't it a 1-year deal anyway? So is it a long-term fix or
Yeah.
so Sean, do you think it's like a short-term get us to the AFC title game?
I don't think it's a gamble at all, to be honest. I think it's see what happens. Like you said, it's a 1-year, $25 million deal. And if he plays well, then you just franchise him the next year, keep him in Indianapolis. I don't think Brissett's the option. Yes, he played well, but it does remind me a lot of like a Matt Castle with New England. Pretty much paying a guy, their backs were against the wall. They signed Brissett to $15 million for, I think, 2 or 3 years, just to keep him on the roster. And because they didn't want him to go anywhere. You only had Brian Hoyer as your second option. So I think to get a veteran like Phillip Rivers, who has the experience, maybe give him a couple weapons and a great defense like the Colts, who are pretty much primed and ready to win now. The one thing that has just hindered them is a quarterback. So they're not really taking much of a gamble. If it works out, great. If not, you just let them loose next year and try to draft a quarterback.
So are they now the front runners for the AFC South? I mean, Hopkins is now out of Houston. I mean, that division's now what? You have Houston with just Watson. They
Yeah.
seem like they're a mess. I mean, you have the Colts. The Jags are a complete mess. I mean,
But what about the Tennessee Titans?
the Titans, okay. I mean, do we like the
thing with
Titans
that
still?
Yeah.
The thing with that division is every year there's change. So like nobody saw Tennessee being what they were last year. I think it's going to be a race between the Colts and the Titans. I think Houston is going to be in flux. They're not a great team. They're a decent team. So I think it's going to come down to the Colts and Titans. And if the Titans can play like they did last year, then it will be the Titans. But I think the Colts have the overall better roster.
All right, Robert. I mean, are you in agreement that it's the Titans division still? Or
Yeah, I think it's the Titans division. I mean, it really depends on what Ryan Tannehill does after this contract year. So, I mean, it really depends on if he can have a full season like he did last year, but that was obviously half a season. So I think it really depends on Ryan Tannehill. They definitely have the talent to be winning that division. I mean, just with Derrick Henry alone, just how much of a monster he is. I think it's still Tennessee's division for now.
all right, John, are you saying it's Tennessee still, or do the Colts now jump into a front runner?
If I have to pick right now today, I actually have Colts finishing third in that division.
Okay.
I think Tennessee's going to take another step forward, not because of Tannehill, not because of Henry, but because Mike Grable as coach, he's gotten that team better. He's gotten that team better every day since he's been there. Okay, so I would stick with him, and I think the Texans, they're not a great team like Sean touched on, but they do have a great quarterback. And I think he's gonna get them far enough to finish second in division, get the wild card. And I think Colts are kind of in no man's land in that division.
Fair
The
enough.
problem
Yeah.
there is Bill O'Brien hinders the Texans. You've seen it.
I agree.
Um,
I agree.
So I don't know. Like, trust me, I think Deshaun Watson's a freak. But the problem with that team, and will always be with that team, is Bill O'Brien is your coach and GM.
Okay, so you
So I don't know how
mentioned
far they
you
can
mentioned Bill O'Brien, and I quickly want to jump into their wild card game against the Bills. If Deshaun Watson does not break that ridiculous pancake sandwich tackle, is Bill O'Brien fired? Because the Texans likely lose that game if he doesn't break that tackle in overtime.
I personally just don't think the Texans want to make that move. I feel like they've had ample opportunity to fire Bill O'Brien with the talent on their roster that they've had for however many seasons. They should have gotten farther. And I think it's coming to the time. If Bill O'Brien doesn't do something quick, I'm guessing this season, they're going to have to cut him off. But yeah, that definitely saved his job with Deshaun Watson doing what he does and saving the Texans season. But ultimately, it didn't do much since, they blew a lead to Kansas City.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, Robert, do you think that 24-0 lead, do you think Bill O'Brien's going in with a short leash this season? Robert, I
He
think.
got this season. I mean, after that DeAndre Hopkins trade, I mean, it's how could it not? I mean, your seat's got to be hot a little bit. I mean, it's also the Chiefs. Blowing a 24-point lead to the Chiefs is, it's the Chiefs with that offense. But it's a significant enough lead where you shouldn't be doing that. But yeah, I mean, you should be building around Deshaun Watson. He's ready to break into his prime. You should be building around him. You're subtracting from him. What are you doing? I think they give him, maybe half this season, see where the Texans are at. If they're really underperforming in that division, I think it's time to cut loose.
John, anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think if you were gonna fire Bill O'Brien, I think you've had every opportunity to do it, and I think he's consistently underachieved with that team. So I think that seat should be hot, but I think he should have been gone by now. He should have been gone before he had the chance to trade DeAndre Hopkins out of town. So we'll see how it plays out.
Fair enough. So we mentioned the Colts, and we also brought up Andrew Luck. So I want to bring up a weird scenario where Andrew Luck comes out of retirement and becomes the next quarterback for the New England Patriots. Is that at all a possibility?
Absolutely not.
No? Him coming out of retirement a possibility, or do you think Andrew Luck's kind of done?
If Andrew Luck came out of retirement, the Colts would not even let that be a possibility. He won't come out of retirement, but the Colts have the retired rights.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way that they would trade him to the New England Patriots.
Okay, but John, could you see the Patriots maybe giving up a lot to bring Andrew Luck in?
Yeah, listen, Jaret, under the circumstances I sit at today, I can't rule anything out as a possibility.
Okay.
So you know what? I think we can't rule it out. I think if it did happen, the Patriots would certainly be Super Bowl contenders.
All right, Robert, if that happens, I mean, could that happen? Any chance?
I would have said Tom Brady couldn't be a Buck. I
Yeah,
would have said
that's
he's
true.
recording this in a studio right now. So I
Yeah.
suppose anything's possible.
I just don't see that happening. I think that's a Hail Mary if there ever was one, man. I mean, I can't see that.
I don't
really
know.
don't.
I've
I don't
seen
see him.
I've seen Belichick pull off bigger stunts, but we'll move to another quarterback, a former Super Bowl MVP himself, Super Bowl 52 MVP Nick Foles has been traded to the Chicago Bears, and I guess we all presume that's going to be to take Mr. Mitchell Trubisky's job. Robert, I'll let you start with this. Was this time for the Bears to move on from Mitch, and is Foles the answer?
I mean, I don't know. Are they moving on from Trubisky? It seems like maybe bringing him in kind of like the season where they're kind of giving the young quarterback the nudge of, hey, listen, if you don't step it up this season, we can easily make you a backup. So I think they're still going to start with Trubisky for the season. I think they're going to do again what the Titans did, give him half the season like they did to Mariota, see where they're at. If they don't like what they see from Trubisky, sit them, play Foles. I mean, I think that's what it is. I think it's to start lighting a fire under Trubisky. I mean, this is his last season really to prove that he can be a starter. And if not, he's got Foles right there who, can be a starter for uh, a worse team like the Bears. I mean, Foles isn't a starter on most good teams, but, on a team like the Bears, I think he, can step in there and take Trubisky's job.
John, I see you wanna add to this because I don't know, man. Taking that contract to not start him is kind of weird.
Yeah, I agree, and I think here's the thing: is like he's gonna be a guy who's gonna come in and win over the locker room from day one. So I think when you come to camp, I think Foles is gonna come in hungry and he's gonna steal that job. And frankly, I think you have to make the move because in that division, you can't afford to drop any games. It's very competitive right now with the Packers and the Vikings. So I think you have to be willing to pull the trigger on that move. And I think with that defense and the weapons he has around him, I think Foles can keep that team competitive.
I mean, we've seen Foles do it in the postseason. Haven't seen as much success throughout the whole regular season. But Sean, is it Foles time in Chicago?
I have no idea with the Chicago Bears anymore. I really don't. Like they
I think we lost Sean there for a second.
There, Sean?
Little technical difficulties there. Hold on, we'll see if he'll connect. We'll give him a second, but I mean, for the Bears to go out, supposedly multiple teams are interested in Nick Foles, and for the Bears of all teams to make that move, I mean, John, do you think maybe it's desperation time? It has to be because I mean they lost to Nick Foles in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean to bring in that contract, it's a little bit desperate, but I think like what kind of guy you're getting with Nick Foles. You're getting a good veteran, great locker room guy. Everybody who's played with him raves about the guy. So you know, I think with the team he has around him, this isn't the Jacksonville Jaguars. This isn't the Rams situation when he's at the Rams. He's going into a pretty well built team. Maybe a little bit of dysfunction, but I think maybe the problem is they're just a quarterback away.
Quarterback away. I mean, I thought trading Jordan Howard was their biggest mistake. Robert, do you think the Bears are more than just a quarterback problem?
Uh, it's like Sean was saying, it's the Bears. What are they? I don't know. They're such a complicated team. Like you think they're going to be good. They put that elite defense last season, and it's just they're such a bubble team. It's so you can't write them in, you can't write them out. It's such a weird situation there. I think they're more than Nick Foles away. I don't know. I don't know how Nick Foles is going to do there. I just don't. I don't think he's the answer. Like, yeah, he's a locker room guy, but I just don't. He's not a guy that's going to be there for longevity. I don't think. I think they need to get a starting quarterback there that they can trust long term. I mean, I'm curious. Like, what do you think they do with Trubisky at this point? You just bench him and say he's a bust, or what?
All right, hey Sean, I think you're back. Are you good, Sean? Hello, can you hear us?
technical difficulties, boys.
That's all good. Can you hear us now though? You good, Sean? Nope, Sean Green has
He-
left the call.
Sean
All right.
Green has left the building.
We'll let Sean get that worked out, but since we're on the topic of quarterbacks, I want to talk about a quarterback over in the Motor City. That is indeed Matthew Stafford. You know, rumors came out a couple weeks ago that the Lions are ready to move on. You know, Stafford might not be happy. What's going on in Detroit? They seem to be a mess. Matt Patricia does not have control of that team at all. John, where is Matthew Stafford playing the 2020 season?
I think he's playing the 2020 season in Detroit, but man, I think he's itching to get to New England and see what he can do under a less dysfunctional organization for a great coach in Bill Belichick. I think if you're the Lions, I think you're sitting in a position you could pull the trigger on Tua, sit him behind Stafford for a year, and then turn him loose and see what happens. So I think both Stafford and Detroit are gonna find something that works for both sides, and I think they both the future looks good going forward as much as it can for the Detroit Lions, considering you are the Detroit Lions.
All right, Robert, where is he going to be?
Yeah, I think I agree with John. I think he's going to be with Detroit this season. I don't see them trading him the rest of this free agency period. I think he's going to ride out the season with the Lions. They'll see where they're at. You know, maybe next offseason, that's when they start considering really trading Matthew Stafford, not for their sake, but for his sake, just to get him out of there, get him to a team that can, sort of salvage what's left of his career. Just the Lions are just such a, again, like they're even worse off than the Bears.
Disaster?
It's just such a terrible team. So it's just, they're bad.
All right, Sean, do we have you back?
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, so now we moved on to the topic of Matthew Stafford and the trade rumors from there, and we're just basically, where do you see Matthew Stafford playing the 2020 season, and what's his future?
Yeah, I see him playing with the Lions. The Lions are not going to move off of him, and I don't see them taking a quarterback like everybody assumes they will. So yeah, I think he is going to be with the Lions. I think Matt Patricia actually leaves before Matthew Stafford. So he's been with them for so long. I thought they were going to take like Tua third, but obviously they're going to take the really good corner from Ohio State, Ogda. So I have no idea with the Lions. It's the same thing with the Bears. They're the same team in my eyes. So I don't know. I think Matthew Stafford is going to be their quarterback for a couple more years before they actually move off of him.
John, I know you don't. I don't think you agree with that. I don't know. I mean, you were saying to go Tua, go young.
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't really know what they're thinking as far as the draft. I think certainly, I mean, I think their chances of going for Tua are less now that maybe this COVID-19 messes up some of the scouting aspect of Tua as far as seeing him work out, seeing him run, evaluating him in person. So it does take away the chances, but I think ultimately you say you have a guy in Matthew Stafford, you keep in there for a couple of years. It makes sense to go grab a Tua Tagovailoa, sit him for a year or two, make sure he's healthy, good to go, and then throw him in there when you're ready to move on from Stafford.
I think the big thing is that division is so locked up for anyone but the Lions. I think that's like the big issue here. Like I don't think the Lions will ever win that division again while Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback, while Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook are, I mean, at least winning 9 games this season, and the Bears, who arguably should be better if Foles is the starter, but you know what? Time will tell. But Matthew Stafford in Detroit seems like a downhill slope that is soon gonna, unravel. So now that we've talked, the big signings that have happened, I want to know what you think the best signing so far has been by a team. And Robert, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the former Ram. I'm gonna go Corey Littleton. Corey Littleton, I think, is the one guy that the Rams are really gonna miss next season. He was a really under the radar player, like for the last couple seasons before people started really turning their eyes and seeing like, oh, like this guy's like a legit linebacker, like he's really good. I thought he was gonna get way more. I think he got 11 million from the Raiders a season. It's pretty low considering that the Rams were expecting him, I think, to get a little bit more than that. But I think it's just going to work out so well for the Raiders. He's really, really good. And I think, Las Vegas is going to get a legit linebacker that they're going to see next season, and he's a signing to get excited about for that new look to that franchise.
Sean, did you like that fit for him?
I did, but also the Raiders just throw money at everybody and sign a bunch of people that necessarily might not fit great. So even though I really do like Littleton, I think he's a great player. I just need to wait to see how John Gruden's actually going to use him, what defensive scheme they're going to use to really make sure that his talent is used wisely.
I mean, yeah, they were terrible on defense last year. I mean, not that they were really a complete team last year. Up and down all year. But John, I mean, are the Raiders going to be better now, or are they still another issue?
Yeah, I mean, I think that signing certainly puts them in the right direction. I think Corey Littleton's a not great. He's a very good veteran linebacker who can plug in. He's going to be a good team guy. You know what you're getting with him. I still have a lot of questions surrounding that team, surrounding that offense, but I think it was a good sign. I think it was a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, they only had, I think, they were like bottom tier of turnovers. I believe they had 18 turnovers on the defensive end last year. So, hey, you got to do what you got to do. Sean, what was your best signing so far of the offseason?
My best signing.
Yeah.
I think it's challenging because I like the trades more than the signings. I really didn't see a signing that made a team.
All right, then
so much better.
which trade did you like the most?
To be honest, I like the Diggs trade in the DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, we can talk about that more later. But obviously, those two trades really made their teams better.
Well, last week we talked about the Hopkins trade, so let's go into the Diggs trade. The Vikings traded, what was it, a first-round pick and a fifth-round pick, I believe a sixth-round pick as well? Or the Bills gave that up? Yeah, the Bills gave up a first-round, a fifth-round, and a sixth-round, and then also another fourth-round later for Diggs. Was that overpaid? Or was that right?
The Bills need it. The Bills need to compete in the AFC East. They were really close last year. They're right there. Their defense is killer, but their offense really hindered them. Really, it's going to be up to Josh Allen now. He has no more excuses. With the offense that he has, they have a team that can win the AFC East for the first time in years. So I think for a receiver like that, the Bills went out. They did what they had to do to get him, and he makes them exponentially better and makes them probably the favorites to win the AFC East.
John, did you like that Diggs trade for both teams or just one?
Yeah, I loved it from the Buffalo Bills standpoint. My knock on the Bills all along has been that they have a bunch of undersized receivers. So it's like now you get Josh Allen, a guy who's not only a deep threat, but a big threat after the catch. So I think the Buffalo Bills took another step forward, and I think they are, in fact, the favorite to win that NFC East.
All right, Robert?
Yeah, I liked it for both teams, actually. I like it for the Vikings because clearly, again, there was a strained relationship there between Diggs and the Vikings. It was only a matter of time before he got traded, and they got a first-round pick out of it, so much better than the Texans did for DeAndre Hopkins. But also for, the Bills, it, like Sean said, it puts them as a top team in the AFC East. They are the favorite, most likely, and it gives Josh Allen a number one threat, which is what you need for a quarterback that you think is your future. So I like it really for both teams. I think it worked out well. One of the rare even leagues we'll get.
And let's just get some, like the Patriots are the favorites. I'm not.
Are they? Are they though?
The Bills got a lot closer. They're the favorites right now because we don't know what's going on with the quarterback. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. It made them better, but I might have missed
the gap between the Bills and the Patriots was not a large gap last year, and the Bills just took a step forward. Patriots, I would say, just took a step back.
No question about it. We'll see what happens. We got months and months, but listen, you've won the AFC East for years, so we'll see.
We do have months, but the one thing I want to compare, I guess, the Diggs, on the Bills too, is Sammy Watkins on the Bills. That didn't go, I guess, as planned, and that was probably their last big name wide receiver. Do we see the Diggs era in Buffalo going a lot better than the Watkins era?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it really just depends on Josh Allen. Like, I don't see him as a passer. and I think most people don't. He can pass, but he's a runner. And with Stephon Diggs and his temper, if he doesn't get the good balls thrown to him, he'll start, getting a little upset with Josh Allen. So I think what Buffalo really needs to do is work with Josh Allen on being a pocket quarterback that can run.
All right. I mean, Robert, do you think? I mean, do they need to make Josh Allen a pocket guy, or I mean, can he just? It's kind of Diggs is told, "Hey, suck it up. You're in a new environment." I mean, maybe that we've seen that change players' culture. You know, Robert, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna have to adjust his attitude a little bit, I think, especially with a new team. I mean, you just gotta see what you can do, see what the chemistry is between him and Allen, and really see if Allen is that potential top quarterback that they're looking for. Because I think he is one that a lot of people are still kind of washing on. They're kind of like, I don't know, is he the answer? So it's going to be interesting this season. If you can't do it with Diggs, I mean, that's a legit top wide receiver. So if you can't do it with him, I don't know with Allen. Who knows where you go from there?
John, anything else to add on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think look, Josh Allen, he is a bit of a loose cannon, but no mistake, he can rip it. And they've had him surrounded by some terrible receivers. They finally got him a legitimate top tier talent. So I think we're gonna see some fireworks from that offense finally.
All right, and then John, what was your best signing, trade, move? What's the best move that you've seen so
Yeah,
far?
listen, the best move I've seen so far, I don't care about his age. I don't care about that maybe he's dropped off. The best move was Tom Brady to the Buccaneers. Listen, you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You don't have the opportunity to bring in too many guys like a Tom Brady, okay? Tom Brady is going to be walking through the halls of that franchise, okay? That is maybe the biggest thing that's happened in
It's
franchise
Terrible
history.
it's
take,
hard.
John.
No,
Terrible.
it's hard.
Terrible.
Why
It's
is
the
it
Tampa Bay
okay?
Buccaneers,
It's hard to
John.
argue because when Brady won his last Super Bowl, who would have ever thought, oh, this guy's not gonna be in that jersey? Like we were. I mean, we could have all said, oh yeah, Brady's gonna go to this team, but no one ever meant it. And when the reports
What
came
happened with
out,
Joe Montana?
that's
Joe
true.
Montana was the same way.
That's true.
So
But did we really think Tom Brady and Bill Belichick would ever break
Just
up? That was like a marriage that was never gonna last, right, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe he let his last throw in a Patriot uniform be a
no,
pick. I mean,
Pick six,
stop.
pick
pick
six.
six.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let's
I'm
not.
just surprised he did that, but it is what it is.
All right. Well, an acquisition you guys did not mention, and I think the Eagles going out and signing or trading for Darius Slay might be one of the best moves so far this offseason. Especially for a secondary that gets torched every single game, a secondary that got torched in the game against the Seahawks. How do we think Darius Slay fits into the Eagles scheme? Sean, I'll start with you.
Yeah, nobody wanted to take the Eagles question. I don't know why.
I can't blame them.
Yeah.
The secondary sucks.
Obviously, it's one of the worst secondaries in the league. So Darius Slayton makes them a lot better, but they need more help.
They still suck. Okay.
One guy is not going to fix all of the Eagles' problems on defense. And on offense, they need a wide receiver. And obviously, it's to no surprise they're going to draft one or trade for one. They were in the running for D Hop and Stephon Diggs. So the Eagles need to work on the wide receivers and the back end of the defense. So
Well,
signing Slade definitely makes them a lot better.
they added Slay, got rid of Aguilar. John, did you like the Slay trade for both teams, one team, or?
Well, I certainly loved it for the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, you had problems in the secondary. You needed a good cover corner. You got, a fringe top five corner right there. So that's a huge step in the right direction.
Robert, anything else you want to add?
No, yeah, I like the move for the Eagles a lot. I think it's like John said, it's a step in the right direction. Losing a veteran on defense like Malcolm Jenkins as well. That's a little bit of a bigger loss, even though he's up there in age now. But yeah, I think Slay is the right move for them, and like you said, step in the right direction.
Actually, I have a question for Jared
Mhm.
because the
Oh,
Malcolm
boy.
Jenkins move definitely, the Malcolm Jenkins move definitely was surprising to me because he is your leader on defense.
He's the
So
leader of the team. He's the vocal leader of the team.
how do you replace that?
You don't. I mean, the thing is, you can't replace like veteran leadership like that. I do think it was time to move on. If you saw earlier in the year, that whole locker room broke down. Like when we were, bottom of the division. Um, it fell apart. You had Orlando Scandrick come in and say Malcolm Jenkins isn't a leader. You had him literally break up that whole locker room. And I honestly think if he never had that interview with on Undisputed, or was it Undisputed, right? Yeah. If he never does that interview, I don't even think the Eagles make the playoffs. But I think that like lit a fire, like, let's put it together one last season. But you can tell Alshon didn't want to be there. I really don't think Jenkins wanted to be there. The whole secondary was trash. No one liked Aguilar. It was just a bad environment. The issue is just replacing the leadership because no matter what, Jenkins was always that guy to rally the team. So I don't know how you replace it. Slay's not going to come in and just be that vocal leader. So it's going to rely on probably Brandon Graham or Carson Wentz to finally be the leader that he needs to be. So now that we've talked good signings, Robert, I told you we were going to talk bad signings, and I'm pretty sure you're wearing his jersey. I'll let you jump into that. Worst signing, worst move by a team.
You think I'm going to say early? I'm actually going to say Jimmy Graham.
Oh, okay. I like that.
I don't know why teams keep giving Jimmy Graham these huge contracts. I just don't get it. I get that the Bears need to figure it out at tight end. That was their clearly their worst position last year. They just need to get it figured out at tight end. But just giving $8 million a season to Jimmy Graham, who's 33, hasn't had anywhere near 1,000 yards in like 3 or 4 seasons, hasn't hit 1,000 yards in since 2013. I just don't get it. I don't get why these teams keep giving Jimmy Graham these huge contracts. It just doesn't make sense. I saw a stat. I think the Bears now have 9 or 10 of their contracts overall are tight ends. It's just like, come on, man. If you're going to spend that much money, go and sign Austin Hooper, if anything.
Well, do we think teams keep giving Graham that contract because they think he'll go back to his New Orleans days? Is that why?
But he's 33. Is he really going to revert back to? He is what he is at this point.
Yeah, he's a freak of nature who's really big and really tall and really physical, but doesn't get the ball enough.
But is it possible that he wasn't a good scheme fit in Seattle and he wasn't a good scheme fit in Green Bay?
Well, when did the Packers ever use tight ends? Like the Packers,
I haven't seen a tight end consistently produce in our offense since Jermichael Finley. So
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
I was gonna name me a tight end that has literally lit it up with Aaron Rodgers.
Jermichael Finley was the only guy in the last 10 years that even had a playbook. I mean, Jared Cook had one catch on the Packers, and it came in the playoffs against the Cowboys. That's the only catch I remember Jared Cook ever getting.
Yeah, I think Robert's right. It might not be the best signing, but let's see. Maybe it's just been a bad scheme fit in Seattle and Green Bay.
All right, Sean,
I mind the signing. I mind the value. That's how much I don't like.
I mean, I guess they really wanted him, and they knew they couldn't get Hooper, so you go out and get the next best thing. I mean, Jimmy Graham's still, at the end of the day, he's still a physical guy, and not a lot of corners are going to know how to cover him. All right, Sean.
Yeah, I think. Mm-hmm. No, I think honestly, to that point, they need to pay somebody to play tight end. So
you have
though
to.
The money's not right. They had to go get a tight end, and Jimmy Graham was there and available. So yeah, they overpaid, but they needed to get him. So it's at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
All right, John, what's the worst move you've seen so far?
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I did not like the Cleveland Browns signing of Austin Hooper. I think you overpaid for him. I think he was a top guy from a production standpoint. I don't think he's a top guy from a talent standpoint. Okay? I think you're the Cleveland Browns. You have a lot of holes on that roster that need to be filled. I don't think that money needed to go to the tight end position. I think they had bigger holes to fill in the tight end. You overspent, and now you're locked into this guy.
I mean, but don't we think Hooper is like a top 3 tight end in the league right now, or no?
From a production standpoint, but I can't say he's a top 3 tight end from a talent standpoint.
But what matters in the NFL right now, production or talent?
Yeah, but I don't know if he's going to produce in a different uniform with a different quarterback.
Sean, Robert, do we see him producing with Baker Mayfield? No, Sean. Why
Absolutely not.
You don't think so? All right, so why are you agreeing with John on this?
I'm just not like Austin Hooper. It seems like you're just starting to hear about him. Obviously, he was productive with the Falcons for many years, but he wasn't ever like a top 5 tight end. It was just this past year where he went off on a terrible team, and then he gets big money. So more power to him. But going to the Browns where you have a lot of big heads like Baker, OBJ, Jarvis. He's not going to see the ball as much as he necessarily did with Atlanta. Plus, you have David Njoku there. Like, they're probably going to figure out a way to use both of them. His production is going to take a hit regardless going to the Cleveland Browns. So I don't like the signing at all.
Fair enough. Robert, did you like it or no?
Yeah, I'm kind of echoing the same thoughts. I didn't like it too much. He's young. He's got the stats to back it up, but he's not a good blocker at all. That's his really big weakness. He just isn't a good blocker. And look, the biggest problem on the Browns is that offensive line. They were 23rd in the NFL last year. They added Jack Conklin from the Titans, so it'll be a bit better. But I still think that O-line is just paper thin, and with Baker Mayfield struggling behind that offensive line last year like he did, I just on the Browns. We say every year, oh, it's the Browns. They're finally going to make the playoffs. Last year, that's the year. I'm not sold on that team. You got to prove it first.
Well, and Kevin Stefanski, as a new coach, new offensive coach, I obviously think he had something to say about this. He obviously wanted Hooper, so they overpaid for him. New coach wants his guys. That ended up screwing him.
That does happen. New coaches usually do have some pull. They can bring in their guys, do what they want. I mean, was it a lot of money? Yes. But do the Browns need to make something happen this season? Yes. They've been irrelevant for a while now, and there's no reason, with all the talent now, they should not make the playoffs. So, Sean, what has been your worst signing or worst trade you've seen so far?
Yeah, the worst was Byron Jones to the Dolphins.
Glad you brought that up.
I still don't understand. I still don't understand it. He's a good corner, but he's getting paid 5 years, $82.5 million. And not even just the contract, it's the guarantees. Like 2 years, $40 million guaranteed. And then if he plays 3 years, he's $54 million guaranteed. I just can't fathom him getting paid as the number one corner in the league. But it's almost like Miami's like, listen, we have so much money and nobody wants to come play for us unless we pay them a bunch of money. So here, Byron Jones, come be our number one corner for $82.5 million.
Well, to look at that, look at his stats last season. He had 1 forced fumble, 6 pass deflects, and no interceptions. John, did he deserve this contract, or did he just finesse the Dolphins?
Listen, Byron Jones is a top talent when he's playing safety, but you brought him in to play corner and threw top tier cornerback money at him. So Sean's right. It's a terrible move. It's really a head scratcher. I think
not even number one cornerback, number one, like the highest paid, like it's just terrible.
Yeah, bad move for sure.
I think we've all right. Robert, are you still there with us?
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you think of the Byron Jones deal that went down?
Yeah, way too much money. He ain't the top corner in the league. He shouldn't be getting that money. But I think he's not going to be the highest paid when Jalen Ramsey gets paid. So I think it's contingent on that. I mean, you're looking at Jalen Ramsey getting probably like $20 million from the Rams. So it's
you would hope
the highest paid corner for a while. But I think the Dolphins they're just splash and cast this season. They're trying to fast track that that rebuild, and they're not afraid to spend money, obviously. So
I mean, we
$1 million on Kyle Van Noy.
I mean, yeah, we saw him get Kyle Van Noy. We saw him go get Jordan Howard. I mean, they're like, hey, Tom Brady's out. It's our time to spend. I mean, are the Dolphins okay? So I don't know if we touched on this much. Who is the front runner in the AFC East now that Tom Brady is out? John,
it's the Buffalo Bills. For the Bills. For the reason that I said earlier, that like the gap between the Bills and the Patriots wasn't that big last year, and the Bills went out and got better. The Patriots, I feel, have gotten worse. Still a good team, but have gotten worse.
Robert, whose division is it?
Yeah, I think it's the Bills for the time being, but never count out the Patriots. You're a fool if you do, and we know it's not going to be the Jets division. That's all I know.
Fair enough. Sean, is it still the Patriots?
TBD. But the Patriots are the favorites in Vegas, so we'll go with what Vegas says at the moment.
All right, we'll go with Vegas. What Vegas said, but I don't know if Vegas would have predicted this one. So I mentioned at the start of this segment that I'm pretty sure Robert is wearing the Todd Gurley jersey. I see the Rams jersey. Todd Gurley let go by the Rams. keep in mind, 2 years ago, he was the leading rusher in the NFL and led the team to a Super Bowl. Basically, Derrick Henry them to the Super Bowl. Was this right for the Rams to let go of Gurley? Sean, yes or no?
Yeah, the Rams are one of the funnier teams in the NFL. Because for the last 2 years, I saw this coming. Not the Todd Gurley fall, but them throwing money at big name players and hoping and praying that keeps them relevant. Unfortunately, Todd Gurley's injury is clearly has declined him, and the Rams made a move that ultimately will hurt them because of the cap space. The Rams don't have much of it, and releasing Gurley because of that big contract ultimately will hurt them, not because Gurley's gone, but because they're not going to have enough money to go sign somebody better.
Robert, I know you're an LA guy. Did you like the move? Were you upset to see Gurley go?
It's bittersweet. I mean, Todd Gurley, since arriving to LA with the franchise, has been the face of the franchise. It's him and Donald's team. Now it's going to be Goff and Donald's team, but Gurley is a fan favorite. I love the guy. One of my favorite players in the league. Super, super, super talent. I mean, he was on pace to become a Hall of Famer. I think that's something a lot of
When
people are saying.
healthy, when healthy,
Yeah, when
because
healthy,
health has
absolutely.
played a huge role for
He was a
him.
beast in 2017. I mean, he was just on fire. But look, the arthritis is catching up to his knees. I assume it's only going to get worse. A lot of people were bashing the Rams for it, but it came at an opportune time. The day after, the Rams were going to have to pay him $10 million more in a bonus. And when they have to save money to pay John Johnson III, Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp, and Robert Woods next year, um, sorry, Gurley and his best days I think are behind him. I think this is the Gurley you're going to see, and it's unfortunate because it's a top tier talent and arguably the best running back they've had since Marshall Faulk and Eric Dickerson. So it's a franchise loss, but it had to be done.
John, what'd you think of that?
Yeah, Robert's right. I mean, the arthritis in the knee is not something that's going to go away. It's probably going to get worse. So, the Rams are going to have to continue to get creative in ways to manage his load and work around that. So I think it's best just to cut ties and move on.
All right, and before we wrap up today's show, I do want to mention the Cam Newton Carolina Panthers incident that happened. We find out that the Panthers and Cam Newton had mutually agreed to part ways and look for a trade. Cam Newton immediately goes on Instagram and his hieroglyphics, whatever he was typing in, and said, "This is not true. You forced me into this." And then you had Greg Olson reply, "This sounds familiar," and he was just shipped off to Seattle. John, what is going on in Carolina? Why are they moving on from Cam? And was Teddy Bridgewater the answer?
I think it's one of those things, TBD, like Sean said. But I think, before Cam's injury, he was having a great year as a passer. I think he certainly has a higher ceiling than Bridgewater, but I think maybe the Panthers knew something we don't, and I think I really feel that it hurts Cam Newton's trade value to say, hey, we're going to take Teddy Bridgewater, a very middle of the pack quarterback, to move on from Cam Newton.
All right, Robert, what's going on in Carolina?
Yeah, it's the definition of a team that is just lost. Fired Ron Rivera last season. Now
He deserved to be
have
fired.
open disputes clearly. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I mean, look, McCaffrey.
Yeah, I
was
think he
carrying
had
that team
kept his
last
job
year. Only reason
suspiciously long.
Yeah.
Probably only because he made the Super Bowl.
Suspiciously long.
But yeah, no, I think it's just a team that doesn't seem like they're going in any direction. Now it seems like they'll probably tank for Trevor Lawrence. I guess I just don't. I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, it's a team that's lost, and you're already turning on your quarterback and all that, and opening a dispute like that on Twitter, saying, "Yep, he's available for trade." Everyone, it's just a bad look. And I get it with Cam. I still think there's talent there with him, but he's 30. He's injury prone. He's on a huge contract. I don't know who's going to pull the trigger on him, but his trade value is at an all-time low when you come out publicly and say he's available like that.
I think Teddy might have finessed everyone. The man's getting 21 million thrown at him for the next 3 years, basically, and let's be honest. He did really well as a starter last year, but that Saints team was arguably the most talented in the NFC. Fair. I mean, Sean, do we think Teddy Bridgewater is the answer, and do you value him better than Cam Newton?
I have no idea what Teddy Bridgewater. I would not have given him $60 million.
He's
but
good, but
like,
is he 60 million good?
Here's the thing: it's like, is he good? Because it's like he keeps you in games, he wins you games, but he really never looks good.
Is he better than Ryan Tannehill?
Yes, I personally think he's better than Ryan.
Tannehill got more money.
I don't think he is. I don't think he is better than Ryan Tannehill.
He got more money because Tennessee. Listen, Ryan Tannehill would have got that money somewhere else because success breeds money. When you do success, when you get success somewhere, people want to throw money at you. Teddy played, I think, 5 games starting for New Orleans, around 5 or 6 games.
Yep.
So I guarantee you, if he started the whole season for the Saints, he's getting $100 million. But 5 games, $60 million. This, I think, is the perfect example of new coach wants it to be his team. So get rid of Greg Olsen, ship him out of town. And then with Cam, listen, I don't know if he's healthy or not, but Matt Rule clearly wants to start fresh and make it his team. You can see by the moves he's making. So I don't know what's going on with Carolina. All I know is Matt Rule wants this to be Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers, not the Carolina Panthers.
So for the 5th time this show, I'm going to say it is Cam Newton the next quarterback in New England. I mean, I don't know what other destination, because the Patriots need a quarterback, obviously, and do they go get Cam?
The only good thing about Tom Brady leaving, I was thinking we're going to go to the bottom of everybody's minds, but we're still on the top of everybody's minds because nobody knows what we're going to do.
Yeah, who's Tom Brady's successor? That's what everyone wants to know.
I think with Brian Hoyer getting signed, I don't think we'd get Cam. I wouldn't have mind to see that. I think it'd be an interesting fit. But I think most Patriots fans, they just want to see Jarrett Stidham, see what he can do, and then if he sucks, we go get a quarterback in the next year's draft, or we draft a quarterback this year. But I don't think the Patriots go get Cam, and I actually don't know where Cam will go if he gets released.
Robert, where do you see Cam? Where is he playing?
I don't know. Maybe on the podcast we were talking maybe the Redskins, just to kind of ease Haskins in a little bit more.
I'd hope not, because the Redskins can be bad for a long time.
Yeah. I just don't know. I mean, I would say the Chargers are the only team left, but supposedly they're more than content with rolling with Tyrod Taylor. So I mean, if that's true, I mean, maybe they don't Winston, maybe they don't trade for Newton. I'm at a loss. I don't know where I don't know where either of those two are gonna end up.
John, any ideas where Cam's gonna be?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer because it feels like the teams in the market for a quarterback at this point, it feels like they're looking to get a guy in the draft. So, I think there's a likely scenario he ends up as a backup somewhere, but I do think we see him on the field somewhere next season. Maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars, maybe man,
That's a good take. I didn't even think about the Jaguars.
The Jags could be a good fit. I mean, Foles is out, but then it's are they going to go forward with Minshew? I mean, the Jags are a mess just like every other team. If Cam Newton does go to Jacksonville, does that not make the AFC South kind of interesting?
Oh, I think it's already interesting. I think it makes it even more interesting.
That might make it the most competitive division across the board, because that's going to be a bunch of 8-8 teams probably.
Well, the NFC South.
NFC South. Wait, Robert, what do you want to add there?
I was going to say, I think the Jags are tanking. I mean, once they lost Calais Campbell, I think that was about it for that defense.
Fair. I mean,
I think they're but no, I think the most competitive division right now is the NFC West. Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks, and 49ers. I think that's just all-out war in that division.
That's a solid division across the board.
Arizona
Arizona adds Hopkins. You have Fitzgerald there now to teach him a bit. But before we wrap up today's show, last topic we're going to talk about is Robbie Anderson, who is probably the highest valued receiver on the market. John, where's Robbie Anderson going to go? What's your prediction?
Man, I think when it's all said and done, I think we're gonna see Robbie Anderson in a Green Bay Packers uniform.
Oh my god.
Why?
Well, the Jets don't seem interested in signing him. I think Green Bay, you don't need to get a guy first round as far as receiver because you have a Devontae Adams. I think you go out, sign Robbie Anderson for some aggressively medium money, and Robbie Anderson has said he has interest in Green Bay, so I think the two are gonna make a deal.
All right, Sean, you did not like that, so
He's not going to the Packers. Like,
So then
Where's he going? Where's he going?
He's not going to the Packers.
Why?
I'll tell you
Why
that.
not? Why not?
Because the Packers aren't going to throw money at Robbie Anderson. They'd rather stick. They've got how many receivers that are young and they can work up to something than going and getting a guy that honestly is like.
But,
I
like,
kind
they
of
don't
get
have.
my
But they don't have. They don't
He-
even have like after Devontae Adams, it's like a bunch of undrafted guys. Like
Yeah, but
they
those
need-
undrafted guys got to the NFC Championship, so I don't know. The Robbie Anderson, I've never been a big fan of him. I can understand why teams necessarily don't want him. They're not going to be paying him $10 million plus a year, so
he could be the next
whoever-
Randall Cobb there. I mean,
But that's why I think once Robbie Anderson sees he's not getting the money he wants, it's like if I'm not going to get top money, I want to go play with a top quarterback.
so Sean, what team do you see him with?
to be honest, I don't know a team that will throw money.
The
Um,
Vikings? The Vikings need a receiver.
Yeah, but again, I just don't see them. It really just depends. I think if the Patriots had cap, we might throw a couple million at him. The Vikings are a good option as well, and maybe Jacksonville, because Jacksonville's got a little bit of money to work with now. But I think Robbie's in the same position as Jadeveon Clowney, where they thought they were going to get more money than they're actually going to get, and now they're just waiting for a team to make a decent offer so they can take the first offer that they see.
Robert, what team's Robbie Anderson going to be on next year?
I think he's going to re-sign with the Jets, honestly. I think the Jets kind of need him, and I think he's kind of out of options. If he hasn't signed yet, you start to question where's he really going to end up. I think he's going to end up back with the Jets, though. They kind of need him. I mean, they got nobody outside of Jamison Crowder. I mean, they got nobody on that team. They need him. I mean,
it's the Jets. I mean,
it is the Jets, but they need something to put around Darnold and Bell. I mean, they need something there.
all right. Well, I appreciate you guys joining me today. We are just over the century mark, 1:00, the hour mark. Honestly, I think it was a great episode. Content-wise, we came with it. It's tough right now with coronavirus. Keeping us out of school now the rest of the year, suspending sports until. Love you, Tom. Well, I appreciate everyone coming on. Sean, thanks for making your debut. John, Robert, always a pleasure having you guys on. As always, guys, this has been Hitting the Field, but instead of being from the Nicholson studio, it's once again from sunny South Florida. And we'll see you guys next week. And don't forget to check out the podcast. See you later.